On May 15, 2023, a man entered the home of Katie Higton in Huddersfield, England. She was found on the floor in her kitchen. Next to her was the body of her boyfriend, Stephen Hornet. They had suffered multiple injuries when the police arrived. This is the case of Marcus Osborne. Marcus Osborne was in a relationship with Katie Higton for 5 years. They had 2 children and lived as a family with Katie's 2 children from an earlier relationship. But on the 11th of May 2023, Katie ended the relationship. She said the relationship had been good to start off with, but around 2 years in, Marcus started to become verbally aggressive towards her and her children. He began controlling what she wore and what she did. If things were not done exactly as he wished, he would become angry, and the verbal and physical incidents continued. In this incident, Marcus shot her in the face and on her head. Katie spent the next few days in bed, unable to move. Katie, when well enough physically to leave, she moved out on May the 12th. She changed her Facebook status to single. She declined a large number of messages and phone calls from Marcus. Marcus did exchange Snapchat messages with Katie in which she told him she did not wish to see him. He responded that if he found out that she was even messaging anyone else, he will fully end her life. If I can't have you, nobody else will. At 1:15 on the 10th of May, she went to the police station in Huddersfield to make a complaint about him, and an arrangement was made that she would be visited by a police officer at 8 the following morning. Later, on May the 10th, she called the police to tell them that Marcus had been in contact with her and had threatened her and her children. When she was seen the following morning at 8 a.m., she told the officer that while she did not believe that he would do this to the children, she did believe that if she did not go back to him, he would seek her and seriously take her life. On the 12th of May, Marcus was arrested and interviewed on suspicion of domestic violence and coercive and controlling behavior. He was released on bail with conditions not to go back to the house. And because of this, Katie and the children moved back in thinking he's no longer there. But over the course of the next 2 days, he kept watching the house. He used one of his neighbors to find out whether Katie was in or out. During the evening, he was spotted hanging around the street and looking towards Katie's house. Now at 9 p.m., Katie left the house by taxi to go to the cinema. She was meeting with Stephen Hornet. She left a relative at home babysitting the 4 children. Now at some point after midnight, the relative became aware of a figure at the door of the bedroom in which she was lying. She saw the outline of a knife. Straight away, she knew that it was him. It was Marcus. She told him to get out, but he shook her with such force that she fell onto the wardrobe, knocking her unconscious. When she regained consciousness, he was pacing the room. Her mobile telephone rang. It was Katie. Marcus then held a knife to her neck, insisting that she tell Katie to come home. After the call, he took her phone and the children's phones so that she was unable to summon help. And when Katie arrived, Marcus ran downstairs. He was armed with a knife. Katie told him to get out of the house as she tried to run away. Marcus then inserted the knife in her. He did this 99 times. Many of those wounds were to the chest, penetrating the lungs on both sides. Other internal organs were injured, including the spleen and kidneys. In fact, there were 26 incisions to her face. One of the wounds cut through the 11th rib and another cut into the breastbone. This was a merciless and sustained attack on a woman who was completely defenseless. It's clear he wanted to disfigure her. The relative witnessed all of this. She heard Marcus say to Katie, "Do you think you're funny? I warned you I was going to do this. You're a slag. This is your fault that this is happening." As Marcus is with Katie, the relative behind him at the top of the stairs shouted for Marcus to stop. He told her to shut up or she would be next. Her screaming woke the children, and the relative had to comfort them and tell them not to leave their rooms. Marcus then washed his hands and changed his clothes. He told the relative that he was going to do the same to Stephen because he knew that something had been going on between Stephen and Katie. So, using Katie's mobile, he lured Stephen to the house. He sent him a message pretending to be Katie. In fact, he even used an app on Katie's phone to book a taxi for Stephen to come over. He told him, "Hey, when you get here, come through the side door in the kitchen." And when Stephen entered the kitchen, he was attacked with a kitchen knife. There were 24 significant injuries to the right side of his chest, penetrating the lung and causing a large wound to the heart. But then, during this attack, Marcus cut off his crown jewels. He completely detached it from his body, connected only by a thin strand of connective tissue. The incision extended around Stephen's scrotum and both testes were exposed. However, the examination of the body after death showed that this injury was inflicted just after he would have died. That's no crumb of comfort, but at least he did not feel this pain. Marcus then returned upstairs. He told the relative that Stephen's death had been quick and easy. He then likened them both to Romeo and Juliet, saying, "Well, they can die together, can't they?" He said that Katie had put up a better fight than Stephen. He told the relative that he had done what he set out to do, and that she would not be doing this again. He was laughing as he listened to the voice notes exchanged between Stephen and Katie on her mobile phone. At some point, he went downstairs and moved the bodies into the living room. He then went and physically assaulted the relative. He went into the room wearing his shorts. She was told to shut up. The incident lasted about 5 minutes. After this, he ran her a bath, but she refused. He then took the bath himself. He then made contact with the neighbor and suggested that she come round and have a look. When he opened the door, the neighbor saw the blood in the hallway. He shoved off the bodies in the living room as if he was proud of what he had done. When the paramedics arrived, they found that Katie's body had been stripped naked, except her underwear, which had been pulled up so to expose her private area. Her body was arranged in a starfish position with legs apart and arms away from her body. Stephen's body was by her side. Stephen was also placed on his back in a starfish position. His severed crown jewels had been placed on his abdomen. It appeared to the paramedics that both bodies had been cleaned to a certain extent. His semen was found on swabs taken from Katie's high private area. His semen was also detected towards the front of Katie's underwear. Marcus was eventually arrested.
Arm, boys! Arm! Down! 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 Do not move! You understand?
Sharp 2-4, stand by. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder.
You see, both murders were driven by his sexual jealousy arising from Katie's decision to start a relationship with Stephen. The judge did not accept that the crime was explained by his insecurity of being abandoned or rejected due to a bad childhood. He did this to Katie and Stephen because he believed they had started seeing each other and that their relationship was an intimate one. In fact, the investigation by police and the judge came to the same end on why all of this happened. This conclusion is borne out by the text messages between him and Katie, including his threat to her that if she so much as even messaged someone else, he would end her fully. Marcus told her that she must delete Stephen from her social media, otherwise he would F him up. Even as he was injuring her, he told Katie, "I warned you I was going to do this. Who have you been with? You're a slag. I warned you, it's because of you that this is happening. The point is that the judge believed these statements do not suggest that he was enraged just because Katie had finally left him, although no doubt this was part of the explanation. His primary reason for doing this to them both was because Katie had started a sexual relationship with another man, and he was pathologically jealous of that relationship. Furthermore, both of these murders involved overtly sexual acts by Marcus. He mutilated Stephen's body by cutting off his jewels to emasculate him. What also motivated him, and even the laughter after the crime, was that when he read Katie's and Stephen's messages to each other, they were warm and intimate. Their sexual interest in each other was apparent. Whilst the text messages revealed her developing relationship with Stephen, they also revealed her hostility towards Marcus and her determination to end her relationship with him. In fact, she even expressed her frustration to Stephen that even though she had separated from Marcus, he was still trying to control what she did. Katie even sent a message telling Marcus to leave her alone and that she did not want to see him again. She accused him of being a freak. In the context of the growing relationship between Katie and Stephen, Katie became more hostile toward Marcus. She wanted nothing to do with him. Everything that he did that night was motivated by sex and his need to degrade and humiliate them. In fact, in his mind, the reason why he assaulted the relative is because he knew that it would be the last time he would have sex for a long time. His jeering comments to her, his messages to the neighbor telling her that Katie and Stephen should RIP, and his display of the bodies all demonstrate that he was proud of what he was doing. He was obtaining gratification from telling others what he had done. Marcus was eventually sentenced to life in prison. What a wanker. Now, I'm going to go on to another case that I'll tell you about. It's the case of Lorna, England. But to conclude on Marcus, bruv, is it really that deep? She didn't like you. Okay, plenty of other women out there. You were so insecure. He felt so rejected that this was the answer. It seems like the moment he took their lives and then humiliated them after, whatever pain, anger, insecurity he felt, he just let it out. You know what I mean? I mean, sure, be angry she doesn't like you. I understand being jealous that the woman you like wants another man. I've been there. But this is not the answer. Life in prison is the very least you deserve, you stupid bastard. Now, Lorna, England was the most remarkable and wonderful woman. Everyone who knew her basked in the goodness and light that she generated and the love that she radiated. She had a 52-year marriage to her husband David. 52 years, that's a good innings. David looked forward to many more years together as they approached their later life. As a grandmother, Lorna, who was 74, was very close with her grandkids by providing them childcare when they were little. However, on the 18th of February 2023, Cameron Davis decided to take her life. Cameron himself was 31 years old. He was jobless and was seeking help from mental health services and doctors. On that day in February, he was seen in Lidl, a grocery chain. He took his time selecting a large boning knife, which was bought for the purpose of murder. He drank a lot of vodka, smoked cigarettes, and ate sweets outside the Wansford Sports Centre. After arguing with his mother on the phone, he set off across the park and he went to a quiet wooded area away from the CCTV cameras. He selected a lone female on her way home from shopping. It was a planned and premeditated attack. But it was the terrible fate of Lorna to be walking through that part of the park at the time that Cameron was also there. He took her phone off her. She had perhaps been trying to use it to summon help, but he was too quick. Now the details of what actually happened are unknown, as Cameron has refused to say, but we do know from her injuries and the eyewitness accounts that Lorna fought back valiantly. She prevented him from inserting the knife into her neck, but she did sustain deep wounds in her hands. He then at some point entered the knife through the heart with moderate to strong force, sufficient to cut through all her winter clothing, through her body and into the spine. She fell to the floor instantly and died within moments. After throwing the knife into a stream and discarding his top, his bag and her phone in the park, he spent the rest of the afternoon drinking in various pubs. He was taking Class A drugs until he ran out of money when his mother refused to top up his bank account. Eventually, when he was arrested, he made obscene and offensive comments about Lorna and tried to blame others for his own crime.
Cameron, you taking any drugs or anything tonight, or any booze?
Only alcohol.
Only alcohol, yeah? What have you had? Do you remember?
I don't actually know, to be honest. Right. No. I took a vodka, bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
2 bottles of vodka.
Yeah.
I did that thing earlier. I acted.
He actually denied murder, accepted only manslaughter on grounds of insanity. But the truth was that he was able to make rational choices and exercise judgment. He chose to commit this shocking act to punish the mental health service, the police, and all the people who tried to support and help him. He had what's known as Cluster B personality disorder with emotionally unstable, narcissistic, and antisocial characteristics. Now, I've never heard of Cluster B, but I dread to think, what's Cluster A then? When doctors did look at him, they concluded he did not have a psychotic illness, and the judge believed he was focused on himself and was attention-seeking. His mood would change quickly, and he was prone to anger. His personality disorder did not reduce his culpability and did not diminish his responsibility for Lorna's death. According to the judge, it was a feature of his personality that he blamed others, and seeking to shift responsibility for his own actions bound up with his sense of grievance and victimhood. In the trial, it was revealed he actually did plan to take someone's life when he did not get his own way. He went to the Royal Devon and Exeter Hospital, but they did not admit him as a patient. They did not admit him as a patient because after assessing him with psychiatrists, they did not think he needed treatment. If there had been a need to admit him as an inpatient for treatment, a bed would have been made available. The decision not to admit him was not a resource-driven decision, but based on clinical need, and he did not meet the threshold for being sectioned under the Mental Health Act. In fact, he'd been supported by a range of services since 2021. The staff at the East Devon Council worked tirelessly to support him when he was homeless, finding him emergency, then temporary, and then permanent accommodation. He had the help of dedicated housing support workers who met him regularly. In fact, these support workers kept in phone contact with him once or twice a week to ensure he's doing okay. But he repaid their support and kindness by setting fire to the permanent accommodation found for him. Bro, what? He threatened to harm the council officer who had done most to help him. The truth is that everyone went above and beyond to support him and showed him empathy and kindness. He continued taking drugs and drinking to excess and did little to help manage his disorder. The many occasions doctors assessed him at various hospitals, he was found not to have a serious mental illness but thought to be lying. He was either exaggerating or putting on symptoms for effect as part of his manipulative and controlling behavior, or having pseudo-psychotic hallucinations. So with all of this, eventually Cameron was jailed for 28 years. Lorna's daughter, Jackie, spoke how she was extremely close to her mum and how she missed her every day. She said that she's devastated and heartbroken, doesn't even come close. When questioning Cameron, she said, "How would you feel if someone did this to your mum?" She said, "What horrifies me the most is the last thing she saw was you," as in Cameron. So in terms of Cameron, this is a very rare case where the suspect and the victim did not know each other. In the first story of Marcus, it was his girlfriend, and I think 90% of the time when you have a murder of this nature, it's always with parties who know each other. But Cameron was so angry, pissed off, and just so moronic with his own situation, maybe he thought going to prison was better for him. Who knows? Or maybe he thought doing this would make him feel better for all this anger he internalized. But comment, tell me what you think.